everybody, good afternoon. This is Jean here. I'm not in my sewing room. Jean Truelove from Truelove Quilts for you. I'm sitting among our wood pile. Do you think we have enough wood? We got our wood splitter fixed. If you remember, our wood splitter had broken. This is wood from our property that's been cut down, and I mean 1/100th of the wood that we have. But we got the wood splitters working, and it's up there, so we've already split several cords of wood for the coming winter. But these are the trees, some of the trees that we've cut down on the property here, dead ones of course. And I always take a walk. I'm outside during the day, so I thought, well, I'm going to show you my progress on my my quilt that we're making, my Dear Jean's sampler quilt. But I thought I'd bring it to you from nature, from the good outdoors. It's so very pretty. It's so very pretty. Maxwell is cutting the grass over that side. Hopefully you can hear. I just set my tripod up. I just thought, just to change it up. But as you know, the last few videos concerning my block party, Jean's Block Party 2021, I'll put up a closer picture of these if you can't see them all that well. I had finished the main body of my quilt. Okay, my quilt is now 72 inches square. And if you were following along and wanted to finish the quilt, by all means, you could finish it right there. You could quilt it and bind your quilt and finish it. It's just so lovely. Maybe put a small border on it. You have a nice size quilt. I am going to I'm still growing my quilt, so it's a larger quilt according to my sort of original pattern idea. So that means I've got to the point where I've gotten. The last step was my flying geese that I put around my quilt. But now I figured out roughly, again, like my flying geese, I was a couple off. I think I need about 40 more blocks, give or take, around my border. Now I'm not going to be making 40 different sampler blocks. I'm dialing it back now. We've done sort of the hardest part. I'm dialing it back to making sampler blocks, 6.5 inch unfinished blocks for now. But I'm not going to be doing a million blocks. I am going to flesh out my quilt with some more 4 patches, simple, and some 9 patches, simple. That was one of my beginning tutorials, how you can make them sort of en masse. And then I'm going to be adding a few sampler blocks. When I'm doing the next tutorials from now on, it says, I don't know if you can see, this says block 11. It's not that we've done 11 blocks, we've made more blocks, but just for the sake of, on my playlist, this is block 11. From now on, I'm going to be doing a tutorial on one block, but I personally am going to be pulling other fabrics from my stash and making 1 or 2 extra blocks, maybe just 2. I do my tutorial, or what I did is I sort of did a sample, a prototype on this, and then I'm doing my tutorial on this block here. This block here is a block 11, is a simple 9 patch. However, I've incorporated 5 different fabrics, and in those 5 different fabrics, even though we're making half square triangles 4 at a time, there are, if you count, in this one block here, 17 different pieces to this puzzle. Only a 6.5 inch block, but there's 17 pieces that go in there. It is a simple beginner quilt block. I explain it step by step. But again, if you're following along and you want to, not that I'm rushing my quilt, but I want to get it done, I will be punctuating, like my other, with white sashing, because you might think when I put a closer picture that this is very busy. There are, you know, 5, 6, 7 different fabrics in here, and it's very, very busy looking. Well, when you can afford to have a busier sampler block if you put sashing, and then it lifts it so you actually see each individual block, like in my quilt that I've already made. I've already incorporated all my blocks into that quilt, and you actually see, ah, there's a 9 patch, ah, there's 2 flying geese, ah, there's another funky block, whatever that is. And at the exact And at the exact same thing, my sashing is going to go all the way around all 4 sides of this quilt here. So this is my, what I'm calling block 11. I'm enjoying this very, very much. Oh, you must excuse me, my hair's in my eye. Yeah, I just thought I'd come out here, and it's so nice. It's so nice listening to the birds. We are cleaning up, I think I said in one of the videos, there's a lot of debris. It's not rubbish, it's not ugly. It's a lot of debris having been washed up from the different floods. Lots and lots of debris. In fact, I just was walking along and I saw an old tire. That was not our son's. That was, I don't know where that came from. Came floating down the river. The creek, or the river, runs behind this property, and this entire area has flooded many times. So there's a lot of debris that we're trying to tidy up and clean up and cut down some of the more dangerous trees. But I just thought I'd come out here and from nature, bringing my little show from nature to you folks. And yeah, I love the birds. It's so very pretty. The sun dappling through the green. I sound like a poet. It's just so pretty though. Anyway, I'm going to go into my sewing room now. I'm going to be working on my next sample of blocks. This is going to be easy. I realize the summer is coming now, and maybe some of you, you know, if you haven't stopped your quilt at that point, which you could have done, or just wrap it up and just make a few more blocks, maybe put it away, because I realize the summer's coming. People are outside in their gardens. We're outside doing things. There's a pretty bird. But yeah, I just thought I'd just come to you from my my wood pile here. We got our work cut out for us. All right, folks, I hope you have a lovely day. Please keep safe and take care. See ya. Bye. So we're back to making some simple blocks. Now what I'm going to do, my husband's out there smashing something up. What I'm going to be doing is making a couple of these. I'm going, because as I was explaining in the beginning, I have 40 or 44 blocks to make. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm probably going to be doubling up my blocks, which I will have explained. But this block, back to basics, we've done all of the hard stuff. We've put our quilt together with our flying geese and our applique and all of our different size blocks. Now we're just going to dial it back, quickly whip out a few 6.5 inch unfinished blocks. But for that, what I'm going to do, again, dialing it right back to the very beginning, what we did is we are doing a simple 9 patch, but with many different fabrics, okay? Hopefully you'll have seen this in the beginning, or hopefully you'll have seen a couple of them that I've made. This is just one that I'm making. And this is my cutting instructions for our simple 9 patch here. What you're going to be needing is, I have chosen 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different fabrics for this block, okay? Now, for fabric A, which is my center block here, you're going to be cutting 1 2.5 inch square, okay? For fabric B, my gray dot and my orange here, you're going to be cutting 1 each, 1.5 inch by 12 inches long. We are going to be cutting these down. This is just erring on the larger side. We're going to be squaring up and trimming up these blocks. So this is going to be a little bit big, but it's better bigger than small. For my fabrics C here, we are going to be cutting 1 each, 4 inch squares, okay? 2 different fabrics, 4 inch squares. That is our cutting instructions for this block. Again, 5 different fabrics, a 2.5 inch square, 1.5 by 12 inch, 2 of them, 4-inch, 2 of them. So that is our cutting instructions, and now I'm going to go over to my machine and show you how we're going to put this together. First thing I've done is made sure that my machine is working properly with my 1/4-inch foot. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my 2 long strips here, my orange and my gray, and I'm going to be putting them pretty sides together, okay? Pretty sides together. And I'm just going to stitch down one side 1/4 inch. Keeping them together, not stretching anything. Right down 1/4 inch. Again, by all means, if you want to pin this, you could, or clip it. I don't find the need to. And then right off. Pinch and pull and trim my threads here. And we get a unit that looks like that. Okay, I'm going to put that aside for now because we're almost going to be not chain piecing, but we're going to be constructing our blocks like this right now. So now I'm going to take my next block, my next 2 squares, my 2 4-inch squares, and I'm going to put pretty sides together. I've cut them perfectly. There you go. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just scratch them together like that. I'm going to put my needle down right in the beginning, 1/4 inch. Now what I do is we're going to be stitching right around all 4 sides. I start at the very end of my 1/4 inch, and I stitch to the end. Now a lot of people stitch about 1/4 inch in. I stitch to the end and I keep my needle down. Press the foot up, and then I just pull that slightly so I don't stress those stitches. We've done this before, and then with my needle down, I just come back again on my 1/4 inch. I do that on all 4 sides. I just find it's a little bit more accurate that way. My needle is down, my presser foot is up, I just pinch it, and then I just push that thread under and come back again. Needle down, so I don't stress it. Push that thread up, and then I'm just going to do my 1/4 inch, and again right off now. Pull that, and then I just trim that. Now I am going to go over and I'm going to press these seams. I'm going to press this, setting these seams, both of them, and then I'll show you how we're going to subcut these. So just as my fabrics come off my machine, I'm going to just set that seam right there on that one, and I'm going to just iron that square like that. Okay, setting my seams. Now I'm going to deem the orange over as the darker, so I'm just going to get a little bit of my spritzing spray. I want this to be nice and flat, and I'm just going to roll that up, not down the length. I'm going to go up. I'm going to roll that carefully so I don't get any tucks. Roll it out and up, out and up, out and up. And then we're going to be subcutting this nice and flat. So now I'm going to go over and I'm going to take these right over. Oh, that birdie. I'm going to come right over to my cutting table here. That beautiful, lovely bird. And I'm going to subcut this unit. I'm going to subcut this into 2.5 inch squares. Where is my... I'll find my rotary cutter. So I'm going to find my 2.5 inch square. I'm going to find my 2.5 inch, because this measures 2.5 inches here. Well, that looks a little bit small though. Let me see. I've cut that pretty good. That's 2.5 inches. We are going to be cutting 4 of these 2.5 inch units here. Okay, we're going to be cutting 4 of them. So 1, that's good. 2, I've erred on the larger side, and it's a good thing I did because it got a little bit smaller down at that end. I don't know what happened there, because this end is a little bit tiny. Let's see if I can get a 2.5 inch square. Yeah, there we go. It's just slightly off, a little bit off. It's a little bit. It's a little bit short that way. That's okay. Okay, I don't know what happened there. So now I have 4 of those units there. I have my 2.5 inch, and what I'm going to do with this one here, my 4 inch that we've cut, I'm going to find exactly the diagonal, and I'm going to cut on that diagonal right where that seam, right where the stitching is, okay? Right where the stitching is, just one line in, just to allow for the blade of my rotary cutter. What a nice... We are going to trim this up. We're going to just slice that very slowly and carefully. Now I'm going to pick up my ruler gently, and I'm going to come back, and I'm going to find the other diagonal. Holding that right there. And I'm just going to slice that without having moved my fabric. You see that? Now, here are my half square triangles. I made 4 at one time. So what we need for this block, right, is 9 pieces. We are going to be making our 9 patch, okay, our 3 grid 9 patch. But what I'm going to do is, again, I'm going to go over with the dark side. I'm going to set this seam, and I'm just going to pick up my purple, and I'm going to roll that very carefully because it's on the bias. I'm going to set that and roll that right over to that purple, okay? And at this point, I'm not trimming my dog ears, but I'm going to just do that. I'm going to iron these right now, and so what I've done is I've pressed all of these 4 half square triangles to the dark, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to now trim them up to 2.5 inches, and basically that means I'm going to just sort of cut off these dog ears. I've lined up that line on my ruler, whatever the angle is, I don't know, it's a pretty line. And I'm finding my 2.5 and my 2.5, and I'm just going to cut these pieces down. I'm going to cut these down to 2.5 inches. So it's interesting, you don't think that when you're trimming up you have much, but it's very important to get a nice block that you do trim up. So now what we're going to do is we have our units here, and we're just going to bring my design board over, and I'm just going to put my block together. Now I'm going to put my square in the middle, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to, I think, put the oranges to the outside of my block like this. I always do it visually. As you know, it's a pretty block. It has a lot of fabric in it, and it's pretty, has a lot of movement. And then my darker bits, my dark purple is going to go in that corner. So that would go in that corner. And then that would go, let me just see, up here. Yeah, that's right. All the darks pointing into the corner. And then, is that right? Yeah, like that. Ah, that's so pretty. So there is my one block. Now literally I'm going to go over, it's made a lovely little cross in there and a lovely dark, it's nice. I'm going to go over to my ironing board, to my sewing machine, and I'm going to put this together. So I'm going to take my top row and keep my configuration. We've done this a million times. I'm going to put my pretty side over to my pretty side, the right to the left, scratch that together. They're perfect 2.5 inches now. And I'm just going to put my needle down. Now again, there is a way that you can chain piece the entire 3 units. I don't do that because I get a little bit confused. So I'm just going to do this over here, my left over to my center on my top row. I do have to turn that around. I just do 3 at a time. I'm okay with that. There's that one, and this is what you want. You want to have your 1/4 inch. You see that? So then when we put our block together, we have our 1/4 inch. The middle block is easier. Pretty side to pretty side, right over to the left. We've cut it well. Pinch and pull. People say, why do you say that all the time? It gets a bit old. But it's just so you don't, when you're working with small pieces, it's so you don't stress these stitches that you've just stitched. Maybe perhaps on a longer, I don't know, starting on a longer seam, it would be okay. But when you're working with a smaller unit, you don't want these first few stitches to get stressed, because that'll be half your seam. So put that over there, and again, keeping my configuration proper with my purple up at the top. Put this over to here. Hopefully that will create my 1/4 inch. Yep, my 1/4 inch is there, and then this one. This is a simple 9 patch, just with a little bit more fabric. And again, I'm going to make 2 of these, different fabric configuration. So there's my 1/4 inch. Now I'm just going to finger press this bottom one to the outside, and then my inside, my second row is going to be pressed. As you can see, it's pressing already to the inside. So these seams here will nest together. Again, by all means, if you want to pin that, this seam's going that way, this seam's going that way. Really nice. But I will turn it over because now I can see where this seam, this 1/4 inch is, right? So there it is. I scratch them and pull them together at that point right there. Whoops, just a little bit like that. 1/4 inch. And I can feel that that seam is nested very well. Just go slowly so I don't cut off that point. I can feel that right there. This seam is going that way. That one is going underneath, is going the other way. 1/4 inch. Go slowly on that, hopefully. There's my lovely points there. And then I'll take my top, configure it, press that seam out, those seams out. And the other seams are going in. And again, this didn't take long at all. If you are continuing making blocks, just a little bit more interesting the next few weeks or the next few videos will just be simple blocks that maybe you want to just make 2 of, or even 3 or 4, however many. But again, I will have addressed that. So there, very quickly, point's good. Now I'm going to go over and set these seams here, and then press that where it wants to go, like that. Hopefully I'll have a 6.5 inch ta-da moment. So again, right off of my sewing machine, I'm going to press that seam right there, set that seam, and the other ones that I pressed, that I nested beautifully. Bring this back, set that seam. Now, 1 or 2 of these units were slightly small, so I'm not sure if I'm going to have my ta-da moment. But as you can see, I'm going to hit this with a little bit of starch. And as you can see, my fabric wants to go, my fabric wants to go that way. So I'm going to press this, just put the tip of my iron right on that seam and press that, roll that right up without skewing it, and pull this one and roll this bottom seam right down. And hopefully there's a nice, lovely flat block. That's pretty, I love it. Yeah, I love that. And then what do I always say? Oops, that one got a little bit skewed, but that's okay. My back pretty much, except for that little mistake right there, my back pretty much looks as good as my front. Nice and flat. Now, let me see, because as I said, my one unit was a bit smaller. So here's my 6.5 inch square. So I just have to make sure, let's put that there. Let's just make sure it's a little bit small. Oh boy. Yeah, it's just slightly, just about, not even, like a 1/16 of an inch there and there. Oh well, I don't have a real ta-da moment. That's all right. It's wonderful, isn't it? Sort of like a want moment because it's not quite. It's wonderful though. It's perfect. It's awesome because I can just make sure that that's just a hair short in the seam. But it's awesome. So hopefully you'll have seen, I have made 2 of these. I think it's so pretty. Real colorful block, real colorful. So, and then again, it will be punctuated with the white sashing. So that's why I can use all my saturated colors and have this lovely block. So, okay, I hope you enjoyed watching this little tutorial, simple 9 patch that we've made. After I beat you up over the big body of my quilt, there's my quilt again. It's been up there. And my blocks are going to continue around, right around here, all the way around. All right, folks, hope you enjoyed this. And again, yeah, love from the Trueloves. Okay, bye-bye.